America is brought to you by Pfizer.
CBS Health Watch sponsored by Pfizer.
Anderson Cooper 360. Brought to you by Pfizer.
ABC News Nightline. Brought to you by Pfizer.
Making a difference. Brought to you by Pfizer.
CNN Tonight. Brought to you by Pfizer. Early Start. Brought to you by Pfizer. Friday night on Aaron Burnett Out Front. Brought to you by Pfizer.
This Week with George Stephanopoulos is brought to you by Pfizer.
This weather report brought to you by Pfizer.
Today's countdown to the royal wedding is brought to you by Pfizer.
And now a CBS Sports Update brought to you by Pfizer.
Meet the Press Data Download. Brought to you by Pfizer.
This portion of CBS This Morning sponsored by Pfizer.
On how to find the hidden sugars in the American family diet. Sponsored by Pfizer.
The Standing Brothers Show. Not brought to you by Pfizer.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes.
Yo, we're back.
Liftoff on Apollo 11.
New year, new... Sorry. New year, new me. I hate that.
Did you make any New Year's resolutions?
No, because they're stupid.
Are they, though?
Kind of. Not gonna lie.
I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, you know what, this year I want to do this better. I don't want to do that. I want to do more of that, do less of that.
Look, here's the issue though. If you really feel that way, you've had all year. If you really felt like some people say, well, you know, hey, 2022, I'm gonna spend less money. I'm gonna spend more time with friends and family. Well, gee, if I was your friends and family, I would have been like, hey, you know, it's a great time to start this whole spending more time with me. Like September.
Yeah, that's true.
Why are you waiting until an arbitrary day, to start this new resolution? There's this thing I've heard that the reason why aliens won't visit us is because they've hovered above Earth, and they're like, these people are so primitive that they have a big celebration for revolving around their giant nuclear reactor every 365 days. They're obviously not intelligent enough to understand that.
I've heard that, but if we think about it logically, and this is why I disagree with, I think it was not Neil deGrasse Tyson, but Richard. The guy in the wheelchair.
The guy in the wheelchair.
The guy in the wheelchair who was Stephen Hawking.
Yeah.
He said that if we were ever to be visited by other creatures from a different planet or different galaxy, that it would have the same effect as if the Native Americans and the Europeans did, where the Native Americans were just, taken over by the Europeans.
He's got a point.
But there again, though, you're assuming that creatures that are maybe 100, if not a million years more advanced than we are going to behave like humans from 1,000 years ago, which is stupid because you think a civilization far more advanced who crossed the galaxy just to commit genocide would be kind of, stupid.
I think that I think that logic and that train of thought is coming from.
It's a very human perspective.
Well, yes, it is, but it's all we have to go on. And
right, that's my point.
Seeing all the evidence we have, typically when there's a clash of cultures and a clash of different peoples meeting for the first time, the people who have the least or who the most technological inferior society and culture don't tend to do very well.
But that again is a human experience.
It is.
And to say that a species that is not human is going to behave like humans is stupid.
But it's all that we have to go on, though.
Or you could just say, you know what? I don't know how we're going to react or respond. I see that the Pentagon has allocated some funding, if I understand, to determine how Americans would react to an alien visitation.
What do they know?
As if it hasn't happened already. Ooh. But then again, though, could it be like in First Contact in Star Trek when the Vulcans meet with humans for the first time right after the Third World War? Because the Vulcans came down after the humans discovered warp technology, and that's when they inserted themselves into our world, and that's how Star Trek became Star Trek. So could it be like Gene Roddenberry's idea? Or could it be something a little more sinister? What a weird way to start the new year.
We won't find out until
that happens.
But as the intro has alluded, we are trustworthy because we don't take money from Pfizer. So
no.
So
nor
therefore,
are we sponsored by any of them.
So therefore, you can trust us.
Right.
You can trust us. Everything we say is true. And then everyone who spoke in the intro of that, I know it was funny, but it is a little.
It's cute.
It is. It's funny because it's almost a parody of itself. That the whole idea that parody is now dead because of stuff like that,
or irony.
But it's also like, whenever you watch these programs, what's the overall message they always just keep hammering home? Is to go out and go get this medical procedure done. And it's amazing that over those clips are those little sound bites are from the past several years. But it is funny how you have one organization or one company that has constantly been sponsoring and putting money into the big media, into the corporate press, and then whenever they have a product out that is the product that we see now, that they just keep peddling it. It's funny. It's almost like they have a financial incentive for it.
You know what kills me? My favorite one was the royal wedding brought to you by Pfizer.
Yeah.
Watching it reminds me, you know what? I forgot to pick up my anti-inflammatory pain pills or whatever. It's like, wow. Because it's so painful watching the royal wedding on TV, I need to take an Advil or something to get through it. That to me is always hilarious. So I wanted to start with something that I saw today, and I don't know, it's a rumor going around that the Daily Mail has put out an article about it. I don't know if it's true or not. It's a rumor, so take it as that. I'm going to say it again. It's a rumor. I don't know if it's true or not.
We can neither confirm nor deny.
Yes, and we are not sponsored by Pfizer. Anyway.
Not.
So Nancy Pelosi is reportedly going to be will be leaving Congress within next year. And that's going to create a whole kind of battle, if you will, in the Congress of who's going to be the next Speaker of the House, if the Democrats remain in the majority. Personally, I think it's good for her, good for Nancy. She's getting out while the getting's good, because she knows that this whole thing is about to blow up. That crap has literally hit the fan for the Democrats, because I think they all are seeing that there's going to be a red wave, and who knows how large it'll be, who knows how impactful it will be. Because if there's one thing that you can count on, if there's one thing that we all can count on, it's Republicans' ability to screw things up when it's been just given to them. And, they have dropped the ball repeatedly when it has been thrown into their court. So that's why I'm not so gung-ho on this red wave. I don't know if I've talked about this here or not, or with you.
The Republicans, when it comes to opportunities like this, is like bases loaded, 2 outs, and a guy just keeps throwing change-ups down the middle, and what do the Republicans do? They bunt it right back to the pitcher. He is just
stand there and take strike 3.
He is just sitting there, just lobbing it in there, batting practice, and he just bunts it right back to the pitcher.
Yeah, it's the home run derby, but he goes for the base hit.
he bunts in the home run derby.
Yes, so that's why I am not so excited, if you will, about a potential red wave, Republican red wave, whatever you want to call it. Even if Donnie is reelected, because we see how his administration was completely co-opted by neocons and neolibs and Javanka and all the other folks, and how it wasn't until the last minute he tried to do the right thing.
Too late.
And even we see with this January 6th stuff resurfacing, because we're going to talk about the I can't use that word.
The most terrible moment in American history.
Right, because we are just mere days away from the anniversary of that dreadful moment in American history. The worst attack on America.
The worst attack on American history.
Since 9/11,
no,
since Pearl Harbor.
I don't know. I don't know. It might be worse.
Did you not hear what I said? The worst attack since then.
No. It might be the worst
That's
ever.
what I'm saying.
It might be the worst attack ever.
The worst attack on American history ever, bar none, was January 6th. And, of course, because no one can let this go. Not even conservatives, not even Republicans can let this go. We're talking about it again. And you see that the Javanka, not Jared.
Javanka?
Jared and Ivanka, Javanka.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, those people. But Ivanka, Don Jr., I think Eric Trump were indicted on something unrelated to January 6th. But you see this going to happen again with that they're going to drag this thing out yet again. And because we're on the anniversary of this blessed day in American history, Donnie says he's going to give a press conference on this day. Now, what would be awesome is if he announces his re-election bid on January 6th. That would just be peak Trump, would it not?
Here's a peak Trump. Peak Trump is going to be, okay, I'm coming back for election, and in 2024, we're doing the insurrection, but we're doing it the right way, okay? We're doing it the right way. You're going to come out and vote for me, and then I'm going to storm in that building and say, you're fired, okay? Nancy, get the heck out, okay? Frankly, you're done. You're finished, okay? It's over. I'm taking over now. We're doing it the right way, okay? Last year, all wrong, but this way, we're doing it right.
In the ballot box.
In the ballot box, okay? We're punching the ballot. We're breaking the ballot box, not breaking the windows, okay? That's what we're doing.
You're going to pull the lever for Donnie. But yeah. So I think that's interesting. And since we're on the topic of January 6th, and this is just because, I hate myself. And because I happen to love this lady so much, I'm joking, of course, but this Liz Chaney character, who is the daughter of Dick Cheney, that torturing warmonger.
Didn't he kill somebody?
He shot a guy and made him apologize.
I'm sorry for being in the path of Vice President Cheney's barrel.
Yeah. If you have a Terminator heart, that's what happens to you.
You apologize for getting shot.
Yeah. So anyway, she was on George Stephanopoulos, sorry. I always get those confused. He's on his show, however Liz Chaney identifies.
We don't judge here on the Standing Brothers show.
Well, since she was basically banned from the Republican Party, where the state where she comes from.
Didn't they kick her out for real?
Yeah, they did. And so I don't know how she identifies. However Liz identifies. But anyway, make your own joke there. But anyway, she was on George Stephanopoulos' show on ABC. I think it was on Sunday, because it wasn't today; it was yesterday. And so, again, because we're coming up on the anniversary, we have to talk about all this crap yet again, whether or not the Donald is going to be indicted for anything to do with January 6th. Because you keep seeing the stuff in the news about how the Donald is going, the hawks are circling the Donald regime, and the indictments and jury trials, and the officers are waiting outside for the go-ahead to arrest the man. While he's eating Cheetos.
The walls are closing in.
The
end is nigh.
The dam is about to burst. The Kraken is about to be released.
Get to the ark.
Yeah. The world is about to end. Repent now, kind of stuff. That is all happening as we're being told from the media, the corporate press, about Trump and the January 6th committee and how they're going after him and Liz Chaney and all the other crackpots on this so-called committee are going to, bring about charges in the harshest terms for Donald Trump. And whether they're going to be legal or just whatever, we're going to find out. So we're going to play parts of the interview that she gave with George Stephanopoulos, on ABC. So Jacob, hit the play button, will you?
Will do.
And we're joined now by the Vice Chair of the Committee, Congresswoman Liz Chaney. Congresswoman Chaney, thank you for joining us again this morning. Happy New Year to you. You were alarmed by this from the very start, from the first moments on January 6th when this started to unfold. You've got a lonely path in your party. Have you been surprised by anything you found over the last year?
Well, I've certainly been surprised by many things. I think that in the piece that you played by John Carl just a few moments ago, he touched on the fact that we know now, we are learning much more about what former President Trump was doing while the violent assault was underway. The committee has firsthand testimony now that he was sitting in the dining room next to the Oval Office watching the attack on...
How do you know that? Who is this so-called informant that you have? I mean, honestly, who is giving you this information? I kind of like to know, because
it's an anonymous source.
Because unless you actually give, details on who this person is and who they are and what they actually said and when they said it, that's kind of important. And if you're just going to go before a committee and say, well, we have an inside source saying blah, 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 blah.
Who is it? We don't know.
We don't know, and we can't disclose that information at this time.
Yeah, try that in a court.
Ain't gonna fly.
Who's your witness? Well, they sent us a letter, and we don't know who it's from. But he used good punctuation. That's how we know we can trust him.
His grammar was spot on.
Grammar was. This man paid for the yearly subscription to Grammarly. Okay, that's how good his grammar is.
So unless you're going to name the source, it's kind of nothing.
It's hearsay.
It's hearsay. It's all hearsay. Unless you can bring this particular person into the court of public opinion, because this won't go before any. I hope it won't go before any court.
Like a committee. The committee still has to hear
about it. In committee, they can do whatever they want. They can say whatever they want.
If you want to make this legit and you want it to, I don't know, have any sort of weight to what this person's saying, other than there's somebody out there who told me this, but I don't know who it is, but I can trust them because they.
Whatever.
Because of reasons.
Well, the reason why they won't do that is because they know this is all stupid and this is just a big waste of time.
Or the person doesn't exist.
Right. And that's the reason why they're wasting all of our time with this in order to get the clicks and to get reelected and the politics and whatever. So, yeah, Liz Chaney, could you please produce this person that said these things, or person? So let us continue with this.
Television. As the assault on the Capitol occurred.
We know. Pause real quick. All right, so she said, I don't know if you caught that he was sitting watching television, because if you say TV, that's an unsophisticated way of saying he was watching it on TV. You have to say television. So he was watching this all unfold while sitting watching television. So continue.
As you know well, that the briefing room at the White House is just a mere few steps from the Oval Office. The president could have at any moment walked those very few steps into the briefing room, gone on live television, and told his supporters who were assaulting the Capitol to stop. He could have told them to stand down. He could have told them to go home. And he failed to do so. It's hard to imagine a more significant, a more serious dereliction of duty than that.
We can stop it right there. So, Liz, if I can call you that, there's this thing called Twitter. And before the Donald was banned from Twitter, I hate to break this to you, but he did get on Twitter several times. Once around, I think it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, after he got back from the Stop the Steal rally, whatever it was called, where he did not incite an insurrection, but he got on the Twitter and said, we are the party of law and order, go home in peace. And then again at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, he got on there again and said through a video.
But Joe,
in the Rose Garden.
But Joe,
now this is the problem with Liz Chaney. The Rose Garden ain't good enough for her. You can't go to the Rose Garden and say, you know what, stop, go home in peace. We're the party of law and order, all that. She wanted the Donald to go on a national broadcast from the Oval Office saying this, that, and the other. Here's the problem with that. There's no live feed of TVs in a Capitol during a riot.
The people inside,
they're not pulling up Fox News looking at themselves.
They're like, "Hey Jimmy, what you watching?" "Oh, I'm watching ABC News live on my phone as I walk through the Capitol building where I probably shouldn't be right now." "Oh, Trump said go home." "All right, guys, pack it up. We're done. All right, let's go home, guys. Trump said let's go home."
"I'm gonna call an Uber. Anybody want a ride share?"
Yeah.
No, didn't happen. But what he did do, Trump used his medium, which is Twitter, the internet. How he got elected, all the great little one-liners he got on Twitter. He got on the tweet, he released a minute-long video saying, "I know you're upset, I know you're angry, I know you're in pain, but this is not the way to do this. Go home in peace. We're the party of law and order. We're the party of peace. Go home in peace. We'll sort this out later." So he did do that. He wasn't silent at all on January 6th. This is so infuriatingly stupid. But the part that's coming up from George Stephanopoulos, he's about to ask a very important question. So, Jacob, could you please rewind about 5 seconds?
Okay.
Play. Significant, a more serious dereliction of duty.
Than
that.
Is his failure to make that statement criminal negligence?
Pause it. Is it criminal negligence that he didn't get on TV? Since when is not going on TV in the Oval Office illegal? Or not doing something like this illegal? He went on Twitter, his medium, his followers follow him on Twitter. I don't know if you know this, George Stephanopoulos or Liz Chaney, but people who like Trump followed him on Twitter. I don't know if you know this or not. That's kind of how the whole Twitter thing works. So if you wanted to reach his people, he's going to go on Twitter. Not go and give some major press conference in the Oval Office. So the fact that he didn't walk to the Oval Office, the fact he walked outside to the Rose Garden, is criminal negligence?
Look. I got one for you, okay? So Trump, and look, we've been over this many times. We did extensive work on this about a year ago. Go back and listen to those podcasts. He can't be held criminally liable for this because he never once incited this. Never once said, go and take the Capitol building. I wish you all the best. Okay. George Stephanopoulos is now saying, can he be held criminally responsible for negligence and not saying going on TV and doing this? Okay. So let's take the same parameters out. Let's use another situation that happened where the person who is influenced, their supporters or a supporter went out and did a criminal act. Okay, remember the shooting on the GOP baseball team from
a couple years
from
ago.
A Bernie supporter.
Yeah.
Okay. Why didn't Bernie Sanders go on TV? Can he be held criminally negligence for not going on TV immediately when the shooting happened?
Steve Scalise almost died because of that.
Or afterwards, did Bernie Sanders issue a statement? Can we hold Bernie Sanders responsible for his dangerous rhetoric against the GOP?
Or was it Bill de Blasio that said over the Summer of Love of 2020 who said that the riots had to be peaceful or protests had to be peaceful?
That was Chris Cuomo.
Chris Cuomo, whichever. The Blasio Cuomo crime family, same thing. But could he be held criminally liable for the people that had their business destroyed or were hurt or killed over the Summer of Love of 2020? Same thing. I mean, sorry, same thing. Now, what's funny here, again, if you go back again 5 seconds, we'll play it again. Watch Liz Chaney like, no, can't go there.
Than that.
Is his failure to make that statement criminal negligence?
You know, I think that there are a number of, as the chairman said, potential criminal statutes at issue here. But I think that there's absolutely no question that it was a dereliction of duty.
Pause it. Hamstrings must be pretty strong after that backpedal.
Yeah.
So we know, they all know that the Donald cannot legitimately be held for criminal anything with January 6th. Now, they might try to do something in kangaroo court, which that's completely different. But the hamstrings on this one to backpedal all that nonsense she just spewed and to see the blood of Trump's arm just coming through George Stephanopoulos' face as he's just seething, wanting blood for what happened on January 6th is so apparent. It's disgusting. The dereliction of duty part. If you want to talk about dereliction of duty, I mean, every president can be convicted in the court of public opinion for dereliction of duty. I mean, come on. That is the stupidest thing to levy against anyone. I mean, anyone can be convicted of dereliction of duty. You ever made a mistake, Jacob?
No.
You ever dropped a quarter at the bank?
I'm perfect.
Yeah. So, I mean, come on.
I don't ever make mistakes. Mistakes are for the weak.
This is utterly ridiculous. Now, if you wanted to go after dereliction of duty for something that actually is meaningful, like foreign policy, like Joe Biden's doing right now with Vladimir Putin, that's a dereliction of duty. Teetering on the edge of World War III, yeah, that's a pretty bad move, if you ask me.
But you know what's funny out of all of this is that you want to talk about criminal charges. Does she not know who her father is?
Oh, please.
I mean, this is the equivalent of the son or daughter of George W. Bush coming on here and saying, "Well,
he had 2 daughters."
Anyways, Donald Trump should be convicted of the criminal war crimes and colluding with other foreign powers. It's the same thing.
Well, it'd be like if George W. Bush came out and said, you know what, well, Donald Trump had a torture policy. You're like, oh, really? He did? Didn't you too?
How much time you got, buddy?
Again,
you want to go there? You really want to go there?
I'm not going to put the rest of it because it's just a nonsensical waste of time. But there was a part about something about, you know, people in their past doing things wrong. Like, wow, your dad wasn't the saint you think he was either.
That's what I find funny about people who would to attack Trump for his past sins. Like, I'm pretty sure there's a pretty long length of things that Trump has done that are probably pretty shady. But like any of these politicians, anyone in Washington is going to sit there with clean hands saying Donald Trump said bad things. Donald Trump is had shady business dealings. Nancy Pelosi's gonna really come out and say that seriously.
Well, see, I could accept that if it was coming from like a Thomas Massey or a Rand Paul.
But they're not saying
But
that.
when it's coming from Liz Chaney or Nancy Pelosi or whomever, it's like, yeah, I don't believe you. Because you and your family and the government you've been a part of have destroyed this country and other countries. So I don't take you seriously, Liz, if I can call you that.
Well, it's also like whenever George W. Bush came out and said that Trump was like dividing the country. I'm like, bro, I don't think your 8 years were all too unifying either, man.
Well, I mean, you had your unifying moment, which you instituted with 9/11, but we won't go there. But no, it's ridiculous because if you look at it, the only well, we don't have to get into the sins of the past with Bush because that's kind of off topic, but you get the point. Or even like with Phil Obama, if he would have said that he's a de-unifier, it's like, wow, you were not so great at it either, dude.
You didn't build that. I was there before you got there. You didn't build that.
Liz Chaney, what are you gonna do with her? I guess the Republican Party of Wyoming is done with her, which good for them.
My question, this whole thing, though,
she should just change party affiliation to the Democrats because that's basically what she is.
No, because here's the thing, though, right? She wants to be the martyr. The martyr.
But nobody's buying it.
Yeah, but
no one is buying that.
It just makes her feel good about herself.
But you know what it is? Is that she wants that conservative spot on The View.
She wants the Meghan McCain spot?
She wants the Meghan McCain spot on The View.
Oh, you know they would love her.
Hang on, that's the only reason why she's doing this. It's all one big pivot to The View. Is that
your end goal in life is to be on The View? Wow.
She wants to rub elbows with Joy Behar and Whoopi Goldberg.
Shoot for the moon, Liz Chaney. This thing I've always wondered. Going this far out, we're a year. We're a year in 3 days. So on Thursday it'll be a year. Does anybody outside of the media and outside of people in Washington who pretend to care, does anybody out there, I know that our audience probably doesn't because you're smart, but does anybody really care about January 6th? Honestly, deep down to your core, do you still care about it? Or does it still keep you up at night knowing that some Trump supporters broke some windows and stole Nancy Pelosi's podium and took selfies in the Hall of Statues there? Does that really bother you that much? And if it does for a different reason than what they're saying, that's fine. There's obviously, I think there's an argument of that the political the polarization has brought people to that point. And that's kind of where I'm at with my issue of it, is that the fact that you've driven these people to the fringe edge of the political conversation divide, that they feel like the only way to get their voice heard is to go and do something like this.
That's the conversations that I've had, is that I've talked to people about this in my immediate circle, and they're not terrified of it, but they're like, you know what, that wasn't us at our best on January 6th, as far as Americans or conservatives were. And I just simply said, it really didn't bother me all that much. And they're like, are you serious? And I'm like, yeah, it's like, it's whatever. Now, the part that does keep me up at night, I guess, is the fact that, because of an interview that I listened to today about this on the Scott Horton show, which everyone should go listen to for other reasons, but was the fact that the same kind of folks who were involved in the how do I say this, the so-called kidnapping attempt of Gretchen Whitmore in Michigan,
which is all entrapment.
It was an inside job. It was entrapment.
Yeah.
The same kind of people, same kind of forces, FBI, CIA, whatever, were all involved in January 6th.
Just for clarification, just 10 seconds, just explain the whole Gretchen Whitmore entrapment thing in case no one knows.
Okay, so I believe there were 30 people involved in this whole thing, and up to 12 to 15 of them were FBI informants. And the plot was they were going to kidnap Gretchen Whitmore because of the COVID stuff, and they were tired of it. And these were so-called militia, 3%ers, whatever group. They were going to allegedly kidnap Gretchen Whitmore because of a whole host of reasons. But the problem is, though, is that the enforcers were the ones who were giving training, giving money, pushing them to do it. And then when they decided to do it, they all pulled out the badges at the last minute at the crime TV show and said, "You're under arrest."
That'd be like a undercover officer going to probably some shady people and saying, "Hey guys, you know what you can do? go rob that bank.
Yeah.
Here's some tools.
Yeah.
Here's some training. Go rob that bank. And then once they pull the gun up, but badges out, you guys are all under arrest.
Yeah, it's like if you had a friend that just suddenly became your friend, and you both were into shotguns. He's like, man, why don't you saw that shotgun off just a little bit? Just take a little bit off the barrel, and then
pull the badge out as soon as he makes the cut. Pull the badge out.
Yeah.
But that's what happened. It's the same people that were behind the entrapment and the pushing for the kidnapping of Governor Whitmer are the ones who were leading the charge. And there's multitude of evidence. I know Tucker Carlson did a whole thing about this. Is that out yet?
I don't know if it's out yet, but it wouldn't take much to convince me that's what actually happened, because there were several people and points in the January 6th of people holding bullhorns, saying "Right this way to the Capitol, right this way to the Capitol." And of course, when an authoritative person with a bullhorn is saying something, the crowd usually follows. Like when you go to the airport or you go to Disney, the people on the intercom are saying "Do this, do that." Well, the crowd normally does that. So when they're saying, we got to go to the Capitol, and they start breaking in, the people in the bullhorn say, we got to go inside the Capitol. Now, who are these people?
I don't know.
Who are these people? It's not that far of a stretch of imagination to say that these were paid operatives, or these were FBI agents or CIA agents trying to sow chaos, to turn what was a peaceful protest into a riot. Now, does that absolve the people that destroyed stuff and did bad stuff? No, it doesn't. But that also doesn't dismiss the fact that the Capitol Police shot and killed Ashley Babbitt unjustifiably, unarmed. So everyone's to blame here. Everyone's to blame. It's the deep state. It's the Trump supporters who went in. It's the people behind the massacre. It shouldn't have happened. It should not have happened. But you know what? That's just the world we live in.
I'm just honestly curious if anyone really cares at this point. I mean, we're a year later, and I'm expecting on Thursday to see a whole bunch of sob story reports and flashbacks of how the country is more divided than ever.
I wonder if they'll try to float out that story about how the one Capitol police officer was killed by the fire extinguisher. If they'll try that trope again.
If they try that, I'm going to repost Glenn Greenwald's article.
Happen.
Or I'll send you a link where you can go read it, because it didn't happen. And the New York Times had to retract that. So the insurrection rioters never killed anybody.
Yeah, they were the ones that were getting killed.
As far as a Katie, they are 0.
So enough of January 6th and Liz Chaney and Donald Trump and all that nonsense. But
I love talking about that.
I don't. I get bored of it real fast. You and I listened to an interview just over the holidays of a certain medical doctor scientist guy who's very smart, very in the know when it comes to mRNA vaccines and whatnot.
You could say that.
Yeah. So the Joe Rogan, who has the largest and most popular podcast on Earth. If you go on Rogan, you've made it. Like that's the new going on. That's the new Johnny Carson of the world.
Well, Rogan is the pinnacle of interviews. I think in general.
Yeah.
I think that getting a spot on Rogan will get you more clicks, more listens than any other interview, and this is counting like
corporate sites
too. Yeah,
like network TV stuff.
Because so Rogan daily pulls more than CNN every single day.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
So if you get on Rogan, you've made it. You have to be a somebody to get on Rogan, which is it's a big deal. But Joe Rogan had on this fellow of the name of Robert Malone, MD.
Yes,
Dr. Robert Malone, who claims that he was one of the ones who helped invented the mRNA vaccine, which is a brand new technology. This guy has a long history of vaccines and working with them in infectious diseases. He is it's not a pathologist.
No, so he didn't invent the vaccine. He invented
the technology.
Yes.
Okay.
He was a part of the team that discovered the mRNA technology that then was used to make the vaccines.
Potato, whatever. But anyway, what's the
He's
word?
a scientist, virologist. He works in public health. He works in immunology and vaccinology as well.
Right, and has so for decades.
Yes.
For a very long time, he's worked in this field. He knows Tony Fauci personally. Wait, am I thinking of a different interview?
No, this is
the same one, because
yeah,
he had on a different guy who was involved with the COVID stuff too. That was it doesn't matter. So he knows Tony Fauci personally. He has dealt with all these people at the CDC. He knows them personally. So he's very well connected in Defense Department groups who often give out contracts to the companies that he works for to develop vaccines and technologies and things revolving the medicines. You can see how well educated in this I am. But so he is on Rogan, and they're talking about the vaccine. They're talking about the new technology, the side effects, all this stuff, right? But here's the problem. He said some controversial things, according to the corporate press, according to Twitter and YouTube and all these other sites, about the COVID vaccine that you're not supposed to say, even though he was involved in making it. So if anyone's allowed to have an opinion on the consequences and benefits of the vaccine, it's this guy, because he helped make it.
Well, not only that, but he is involved in clinical trials at the moment for certain cocktails of drugs for early treatment,
like the Pfizer drug, right?
Well, no, he's doing forget, you have to listen to the interview, but
right.
it was involving a certain other drugs. I don't know if it was ivermectin or the other ones, but he was working on getting clinical trials going, and in the process of it for these early treatment drugs. So he's not just a side. He didn't just, what I'm trying to say is, he didn't just invent this technology and just retire. No, he's critically involved in the clinical trials for these drugs. He's been on the forefront of this from the very, very beginning. He got the earliest genome sequencing. He got the earliest. He actually caught the very first strand of this, and gave his anecdotal evidence to what he took and his experiences of it. So he's incredibly involved in this, and not only just that, but he sits on many boards of many different pharmaceutical. Some medical field boards and everything. He's incredibly involved in multi facets of the you could say quote unquote big pharma, but also the government side of it as well.
Right. So if anyone is allowed to have an opinion on this, it's this guy, right? He's a scientist. He's intimately involved in all the makings of the vaccine and other things that go along with that. The problem is, though, is that before the interview started, he got banned off Twitter. Because the day before, I'm sorry. Because he broke the Tweety guidelines of when it comes to what you are and are not allowed to say about the vaccine and about COVID. Again, if anyone is qualified to talk about this, it's him. Not just Tony Fauci, not just that weird lady, that witch who runs the CDC, not just that cross-eyed freak who works with the WHO people at the WHO. There's more than just 3 people who are allowed to set the rules when it comes to talking about COVID. And if you're not going to allow other voices, other credible voices, when it comes to all this stuff, who actually have a background in the science, the actual science, not the Tony Fauci, what's his name, Karl Rove's whiteboard science. No, actual science. So if he gets banned off the Tweety for this, because, he broke the guidelines, which the guidelines are always changing. The rules are always changing. So when someone says something on the Tweety about the vaccine or whatever, even though the science just changed, but yet YouTube is operating off the old science, and they say something that's credibly and factually true, and they get banned, even though they're speaking the truth, but yet because YouTube and Twitter can't keep up, well, you can't have a debate or discussion about this. That's impossible. And after this interview came out, I think it was. I don't think Rogan posts anything to YouTube anymore. I think he's exclusively on Spotify.
Well, he sometimes posts clips, and
right? But that's
stuff
different,
like that,
though.
Yeah.
But the full-length interview, I believe Robert Malone or someone else published on YouTube and also on Twitter. I think. Don't quote me. But just hours after that, it was deleted. Mm-hmm. The entire interview, talking about a whole host of other things than just the vaccine. They talked about his history, his background, lots of other things. Was taken down. This is the problem with scientism, right? Is that there's only one set of opinion you're allowed to have when it comes to the COVID. sorry, that's not science. That's propaganda. If you can question it, it's science. If you can't, it's propaganda. It's very easy to follow here, folks.
Well, and he's not the first one this has happened to.
No, it's not.
Just look at anyone from the Great Barrington Declaration,
right?
Or Declaration, as he quoted Martin Kordoff, who's as qualified as Dr. Malone on this. He's a Harvard resident immunologist and infectious disease expert who came out against the lockdowns, against the mandates in the beginning. He's gotten railroaded by Fauci and all these other guys. And everyone else, Johnny and Anita, is the same way.
It's funny because the people that they are banning and censoring on these YouTube and these social media platforms come from outrageous right-wing institutions like Harvard and Yale and Oxford. Yeah.
And Stanford. Stanford, wow.
Stanford, yeah. These bastions of white supremacy and just pseudoscience of Harvard and Yale and Oxford and all these other places.
These Trump-loving hick,
redneck
they
had the portraits of Hitler and Goebbels and all the other folks plastered through the hallways of these institutions. That's where these people come from.
They're just nothing but anti-science, anti-vax, lunatics, crazy people.
And the point he made that point too on the podcast is that you're banning some of the smartest people in the world, the people who have dealt with these things for 30, 40 years. Even someone like Alex Berenson, who doesn't really have that much background in the medical field, but has followed this almost his entire adult life, as far as the pharmaceutical companies and whatnot, who knows the ins and outs of it. To ban him, who has done more research on this than any of the backbiters on Twitter, or who even runs the Indian guy who sees this in India says, "Oh, he wrote bad words, ban him." That was a gross simplification of it. But for that to happen, it's like, can't you see this, folks? Can't you see what's going on here?
Well, and it's not that. So what he thinks that he got banned for is there's a thing in this channel that this podcast, but my personal YouTube channel, which I used to live stream a couple times on, and I used to upload videos to, we got hit with a community strike. I don't know if it's gone
our
yet.
Our humble little podcast.
My humble channel with a whole 36 subscribers. I did a live stream and I was talking about how we could potentially, and I said the dangers of censoring certain opinions right now when we don't know the facts and everything is if there happens to be side effects, negative side effects, which we do currently see, especially in young boys with the myocarditis. I'm so bad with that. But primarily that in young men is you could take that video down, and that video was taken down because I did say that we might see negative effects from this in the future, and we do. So was I right? Can I be reinstated? Can that video go back up? No, it can't. The issue, though, is you're not allowed to say anything that would cause vaccine hesitancy. So you're not allowed to say anything that may prevent or may sway someone to not get the vaccine. So if you were to come out and publish accurate data saying that there is an increased risk of high blood pressure or an enlarged heart by this vaccine, if you were to publish that, that could cause someone to have vaccine hesitancy. Therefore, it is not allowed to exist on this platform, even though it's 100% true. This happened with Marjorie Taylor Greene. I don't know if you saw this yesterday. She got kicked off on YouTube Twitter as well because she posted CDC data and VAERS data onto her Twitter account, and that was not allowed because it caused vaccine hesitancy. So theoretically, which there is some evidence to support that Pfizer's clinical trials were kind of screwy with the results, and they threw a lot of
well, it's not the first time they've done that either.
It's not, but they took some people out who had negative side effects, and they didn't include them into the final study. If that were to come out to be 100% true, and they could verify it, and you were to post that to Twitter or to YouTube or even to this podcast, if you were to cover it, and someone were to listen to that and say, "Well, I don't want that vaccine now." Theoretically, I'm causing vaccine hesitancy by posting the truth. So, do I get kicked off of Twitter and YouTube because of that? Yeah. And that's the standpoint I will. And then another thing is that you're only allowing one opinion to go out. This is such a dangerous game we're playing whenever we're silencing the man who was responsible for the technology behind the vaccine. I think he might know a thing or two about it.
If anyone's allowed to speak on it, it's him.
Even if he were to come out and say that, there are some side effects, and that's true, but overall, I think it's generally safe. And this is a man who has no financial incentive behind any of this. He doesn't own stock in Pfizer. He doesn't. He has no financial incentive into any of this, according to him. I have not verified that for myself, but this is according to what he said on the interview. I would generally believe him. And so you have this man who spent his entire life developing this technology, developing the means behind making this vaccine. And he's coming out and saying that, hey, there's something screwy going on around here. So are you going to believe him, or are you going to believe the people that we played in the beginning of this, who are all sponsored by Pfizer? Who, I was watching the Jimmy Dore show this last week, and do you know that Rachel Maddow gets like $30,000 a day by Big Pharma? The show gets paid $30,000 a day just to that show. Do you want to take her opinion? What do you think she's going to say about the Pfizer vaccine when they're putting $30,000 a day in her pocket? What do you think she's going to say? Don't take it? Come on. Even if it was 100% safe, she would still have the same opinion. It's such a... We are approaching the point of no return with this, when it comes to the policy being you're not allowed to spread anything that would cause someone to be hesitant about taking the vaccine.
We are dangling from the rope on the cliffs of insanity. We absolutely are. Because he also is talking about the vaccine potentially, according to data that he has seen, could be screwing with your immune system. If you are a healthy person and you've recovered from COVID, if you get the vaccine, that could have negative effects on your immune system. Now, this is very early. They don't know the full effects of it, but that's something that could potentially be happening. And he's not the only one that's talked about this. Some other people have talked about this too. That's another reason why they took it down. It's because, you can't go there yet, but give it a month, and then it'll be the mainstream.
Yeah.
The problem is that what's happening here is that people like Robert Malone, Alex Berenson, Kuldorf, all these other guys, they're cutting in on their grift, right? They are vaccine hustlers. If you cut in on their grift, they're going to shut you down because they got vaccines to hustle. Because there's a stupid amount of money to be made by Pfizer.
$33 billion.
$33 billion. Now, that's more than what corporation?
That is, okay, so the entire music industry.
Yeah.
From the Beatles to Kanye West to the Rolling Stones to Led Zeppelin to Michael Jackson, $12 billion a year is what's brought in. Pfizer, that's just one company, for one vaccine is going to make $33 billion in 2021. That's how much they're going to make. That's just for the COVID vaccine. It's not including anything else they make, just for the vaccine. The vaccine is the most profitable medical procedure in the history of the world. History of the world. The most profitable medical procedure ever. There is money to be made here. That's probably why we're not seeing any sort of early treatment.
Well, that's
inexpensive early treatment. And he talked about that there was it in India that they were giving out these packages of early treatment. They figured, okay, hey, was it South Africa? I forget, India or South Africa were giving out these packages to the government there was giving out these kits to every single citizen of an early treatment plan. And it was a cocktail of drugs, and you would take based on how much you weigh and stuff like that, and your gender.
It was a conversation between, I think it was Joe Biden, the president of this country.
Yes, they were talking about it.
They don't know. I don't think anybody knows what exactly was said or what exactly was given. But I think they suspect it was a combination of the ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, and some other like vitamins and stuff.
But the point is that this region, go back and I forget. I think it was India. This region has destroyed COVID. It doesn't exist there anymore. It's gone. And it's largely being attributed to these packages that were given to these people with a cocktail of drugs inside. Joe Biden met with them, and they're not going to say what's inside of them. Don't you think that might be useful information for everyone to know?
Because if they did that, and like what he said too, and what other people on Rogan's podcast have said as well, is that the fact that there was no prioritization of early treatment for COVID means that the government is responsible for the excess of, I think what Robert said,
like 2 million something.
No, it's like 500,000 deaths.
Yes.
So if Biden were to come out and say, or Trump were to come out and say, we gave this stuff to other countries and they're doing so much better than we are, which means it was a hustle from the beginning to sell vaccines. That's the reason why you're seeing in Florida why they're restricting the use of monoclonal antibodies. It looks like it works because that's what Rogan got. That's what I got when I had COVID. Within 24 hours, I was better. Tim Pool got it. Within 18 hours or 12 hours, he was better. The monoclonal antibodies. We don't know whether or not ivermectin works. Hydroxychloroquine looks like it works. The fact that those drugs were demonized, those therapeutics were demonized, was to sell vaccines. Now, you can't get Robert Malone to say that because he's got lawyers. I don't have lawyers, and no one listens to this show. So I'm going to say it. It was a grift. It was a hustle to push vaccines. It was vaccine or bust. The whole COVID thing was. And it's criminal. You want to talk about criminal negligence? It's this. It's Tony Fauci, who was it a year into COVID, was saying, you know what? I take B12 vitamins, whatever. I was like, no!
B12 vitamins, vitamin D. Oh, yeah, it's very important a year into this. Don't you think that would have been helpful like March 2020?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, what's going to end up happening is that one day it's going to come out. One day it's going to come out that the HQ and the horse medication,
the ivory,
it's going to come out one day that there is some efficacy to this. This is my prediction. I predict this is going to happen. And because, as Malone said in the interview, he said that if you buy ivermectin in bulk, if you think ivermectin, or if you buy hydroxychloroquine in bulk, it's about a penny a dose.
It was there was another guy who was on Rogan who said that I think the ivory is like 30-something cents a dose.
It's something like that.
He
said if you buy it in large enough quantity, you can get down about a penny a dose.
And there's plenty of it.
There's no money to be made in this. So if it were to come out one day that you could prevent somebody from going to the hospital, I'm not saying that it's a cure. Like that's not what.
But a way to treat the illness.
A way to treat the illness. A way to keep people out of the hospital.
Keep off ventilators.
If that comes out to be true, there are people out there who have demonized myself and demonized this show and other aspects of this because we have talked about maybe perhaps talking to a doctor about this or about masks and whatever. There's many things that have happened because of that, and I've taken beatings from all facets of people, from excuse me. From all sides of my social circle have demonized me for this, and it's fine, whatever, I don't care. But if it comes out one day, and even at this current day, it's okay to admit you were wrong. You guys are, whenever you're banning the guy who invented the technology, I don't think I have to defend my position much further. Like, seriously, who's right here? You sit there and you call me anti-mask, anti-science, whatever. I don't care because I start questioning the narrative behind all this.
You do your own research.
Do your own research. Because I question this kind of stuff and I say, hey, I want to find out more information before I start doing X, Y, and Z. And you demonize me for being part of the problem and not trusting the science or whatever. I don't care. I'm past all that. But now we see this, and now that we see articles like there's something that I posted on my Substack on January 1st that the CDC is now saying to stay off cruise ships even if you're fully vaccinated. Okay, and they're starting to ponder what it really means to be fully vaccinated. So keep in mind, people that still believe that the vaccine is the way out. Please keep in mind if you believe the vaccine is the way out, and if only we reached 100% vaccination rate, this would all go away. Lend me your ears for the next few moments. They're telling you to stop going on cruises. CDC. The cruises are 100% vaccine compliant. 100. You cannot get on a cruise ship without a proof of vaccination. You have a microcosm. You have the environment which you are wanting America to be. 100% vaccination rate. And they're telling you not to go on it. Why? Because you could still spread and catch this thing even after fully vaccinated. So if America was 100% fully vaccinated, this would still exist. It's not going anywhere. In Canada, they're having to cancel hockey games. They're having to cancel indoor events. Why? Because it's spreading. Admit you were wrong. It's okay.
I'm not gonna...
Just stop grifting this further. The faster that we understand that the vaccine is not the way out, and we're seeing this. Look, there was a video I watched where Canadians especially in Canada, they're getting sick of this because Canadians up to this point kind of bought the narrative more than Americans.
Very, very compliant.
Very, very compliant with their government, which is whatever. But they're beginning to question it now. There's many Canadians that over Christmas were like, hey, I got the vaccine, I got boosted. Why are you canceling my Christmas? Why are you canceling my events? I complied. You said this was the way out.
We all complied.
We all complied. And I think you're going to start seeing not only the unvaccinated, but the vaccinated come out and say, hey, we didn't sign up for this. I did my part.
Or it's also like, what's his name? The basketball player.
Kyrie Irving?
Kyrie Irving. So because all the vaccinated players have gotten COVID, they're having to call up the unvaccinated player to come back and play.
I wouldn't come back and play.
Or it's Aaron Rodgers, who may or may not have lied about his vaccination status, whatever. Just go to hell, Terry, whatever your name is. But
Roger Goodell.
Right. No, not Roger Goodell. What's the guy, the Terry Bradshaw. Terry Bradshaw, whatever. The fact that he has said, and we don't know if it's true or not, but he has claimed that the procedures that he took, very similar to Joe Rogan when he got COVID, the NFL is telling other teams to use those same procedures. I think it was a combination of monoclonal antibodies, the ivory, hydroxychloroquine. So when other NFL players who are vaccinated get sick, they're told to take the kitchen sink or drug cocktail that he took when he got COVID and he got better from. But yet they're not telling anybody about that. It's all hush-hush under the rug, sweeping under the rug, don't tell anybody. Isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing how the NFL, Roger Goodell, that cheap, will go out and say, get vaccinated. All the owners and the players and the league will say, go get vaccinated. It's our way out of this thing. Don't take the ivory. Don't take the hydroxychloroquine. Don't get the antibodies. Get the vaccine. But in secret, if Aaron Rodgers is right, the players are taking the cocktail while grifting. It's like, man, can't you see it? Now, this reminds me, too, because Biden also recently said that there is no federal solution to COVID. And it reminds me of that moment on the David Letterman show when the whole thing was blowing up about Jay Leno and Conan, about how Conan was supposed to take the late night show, but Jay Leno snatched it back from him. And Jay Leno was saying, you know what, don't blame Conan for this problem. And Letterman was like, no one is blaming Conan. It's like, yeah, Biden says there's no federal solution to COVID. It's like, there never was a federal solution to COVID.
You are welcome to February 2020, Biden.
Yeah, there is no federal solution. See what that means? That means all the bloviating of Tony Fauci was all irrelevant. If there was no federal solution to it, then all the time we wasted listening to screwy Tony Fauci about COVID was a waste of time. Shows that he doesn't know what he's talking about. Shows that the CDC director didn't know what she was talking about. Shows that the WHO people don't know what they're talking about.
Or even if they do know what they're talking about, if there's no solution, why are we still listening to them?
Yes, thank you.
If there's no solution, then that means that the vaccine mandate
shows the lockdowns were a waste of time and were counterproductive.
Well, what that means is that federal restrictions, federal recommendations are not a solution and therefore should be rescinded immediately. And if they're not rescinded, they should be ignored.
Yes.
Completely ignored because there's no solution.
No. So the next time the flight attendant, chastises you for your mask slipping while you're eating the stale peanuts and drinking the
tiny little Cokes,
the way underserved Coca-Cola with way too much ice, you could say, you know what? Well, Biden said there's no federal solution. Sip, sip, sip. But yeah, so I tell you what, I think by the end of this year, the tale will be told about the whole COVID regime and how it was all just a big blunder, how it was a grift. There will be irreconcilable evidence to show with absolute certainty that these people lied from the beginning, that there was an emphasis on not putting energy and resources into early treatment. It will all come out within the next year. Well, that's because Biden just slips up and says it one day when the reporter or when his aides can't, get the big shepherd hook and drag him off stage, or it's going to be because the next president will come in after Biden or whatever. The truth will come out.
And here's what I will say. I will say that there are, I hate binary choices, but in this case there are. You're either on the side of people who want to censor people from the Great Barrington Declaration. And, well, actually, yes, there are two sides. You're either on the side of people that want to ban these people and not give them any sort of platform to speak because of their qualifications or what they're saying, or you're on the side of say, hey, let's hear all the data, let's hear everything. There is no middle ground when it comes to this. You're either saying Robert Malone has no right to be on Twitter and he is wrong and he is causing people vaccine hesitation and he is anti-vaxxer and which is hilarious because, he's taken it and he says that, it does provide protection and some people probably should take it. But yeah, definitely anti-vaxxer, 100%. And he talks about how they work. Yeah, 100 idiot, complete moron, right? You're either on the side of banning him or on the side of letting everybody speak and have an opinion. There is no middle ground, and as Joe alluded to, I think you are right. I think that one day it's all going to come out, and someone will come and spill the beans. It's not going to stay sealed forever. I will say this. I did write a little piece about whenever Biden waved the white flag about COVID, and I did say that if you voted for Joe Biden based solely upon him fixing COVID, I'm going to dunk on you. I'm sorry. You put this man into office solely for fixing COVID. He hasn't fixed COVID. There's been more cases, more deaths, more hospitalizations, all under Biden, and he's had a vaccine for the entirety of his presidency. So he's clearly worse by the metrics that you use for Trump, right? Deaths and cases. He's worse than Trump. So I'm going to dunk on you. I'm going to embarrass you. I'm going to call you out. Because you put a dementia patient in the White House who should be at a senior citizen home with a blanket on his lap for the rest of his days. That's where he belongs. But you put him in the White House solely because his name is not Donald Trump. And now he has given up on that initiative. So you have to answer for that. You are responsible for that. Second thing, you still have time to repent. And you still have time to admit you were wrong. And I will fully forgive and forget. If you were one of those people out there who said something to me personally, and there's not many people out there, but if you were one of those people that called me anti-vax, anti-mask, a part of the problem, whatever, or even if you never said anything to me personally or on the internet, and you felt these views about...
You harbored those feelings.
You harbored those feelings. There you go. There's still time to admit that you were wrong. Because the window's closing. Now, once it all comes out, and once we fully know the story, and one day, yes, it will, I'm not going to show mercy. Because because people out there who have tried to ruin people like me and other people on the internet for seeking the truth in all this, you demonized us, you deplatformed us, you censored us. There will be no forgiveness when this all comes out. There will be no mercy. There will be nothing but shame, and there will be dunking. I'm talking like Shaquille O'Neal windmill dunking, and it's going to be great. Because you picked the side of the regime and of the state and of censoring medical professionals and resident doctors. You're the one who did that. And you chose the side of the government. You chose the side of censorship and big pharma and the corporate press. And mandates and destroying people's lives. And then whenever it's all said and done, it's like, well, sorry, too late. There's more than enough evidence. There's more than enough truth out there to know that something fishy's going on. We don't know what it is fully yet. But something doesn't add up. I mean, follow the money is always the easiest way to go. But I'm serious about this, man. Like, I feel so strongly about this because it's not the sense of myself personally, because I don't care. Like, say whatever you want about me. I really don't care. I have such thick skin. It doesn't bother me. But the fact that you have divided people based on whether or not they've had a medical procedure, whether or not they wear a mask, or whether or not they have shut their lives down, or if you have shut your life down and other people haven't, and you've called them out for that. You know, prior to March 2020, we never did that kind of stuff. And just because the government says that there's this inherent risk out there and you need to demonize people like that, you know, that's kind of unforgivable. And I think that goes to the core of what's wrong with the divide of this nation, with the divide of this people. And you chose the side of dividing, and you chose the side of demonizing people because they didn't go along with the way that you live your life. And you know, I don't stay up at night for that, and I don't. I have very little forgiveness for those kind of people. Not that saying that no one's done that to me personally, but I know that's happened to people. I know that there have been, you know, isolation and ostracization of people and families. You know, there's certain families that have family members that because they didn't get vaccinated, they're not allowed to be a part of their family, or they're not allowed to come to gatherings. Or they're not, you know,
mass psychosis.
What a silliness. What a way to live. And you know, in the end, they'll be wrong.
You know, there was a lot of things in my mind that were stewing and brewing over the new year as we came into 2020, as we watched the glowy ball drop in Times Square.
The glowy ball?
And Anderson Cooper and, what's his name? Andy Cohen had their little drunken whatever
Those
thing.
are always so cringy,
where they
dude.
tickle each other. It's just,
ew.
Oof.
It's so weird.
But anyway, I just had an overwhelming sense of optimism because you have written some things. I have other things talked about and written in the word form on the online and spoken.
The word form?
It's in audibly spoken on podcasts and YouTube videos. And then I read this piece today by our president, Jeff Deist, from the Mises Institute, and it's titled "How We Will Win." And I'd like to read it for you. It's not too long. It's a very inspiring piece about how we can win, how we will win. And I know Glenn Beck was talking about how the conservatives are winning this stage of the culture war, which I hope he's right. Even though the conservatives and I don't agree on everything, but you know what? I'd rather have a conservative as an ally than the people who would want Robert Malone banned on Twitter. Let's put it that way. But anyway, here it goes. You do not defend a world that is already lost. When was it lost? That you cannot precisely say. It is a point for the revolutionary historian to ponder. We know only that it was surrendered peacefully without a struggle, almost unaware. There was no day, no hour, no celebration of the event, and yet definitely the ultimate power infinitive did pass from the hands of the private enterprise to government. There it is, and there it will remain until it, if ever, it shall be reconquered. Certainly, government will never surrender it without a struggle. We enter 2020 with the hope and optimism made possible by the most clear-eyed assessment of reality. Garrett Garrett's remarkable words, published in 1938, are a right at home in the new year. They're also liberating. There is no going back, no restoration, no reform. The America we thought we knew is gone. Tens of millions of Americans now believe both the U.S. federal government and the major institutions in this country, from media to big corporations to universities to Hollywood to big pharma, and the medical establishment are actively working against their interest. They have no self-interest in defending the world already lost. We can be melancholy about this, or we can be happy and confident about the opportunities presented. Those same millions who no longer believe the system's work are eager to build a new one. America is barely a country at this point, beyond a pure economic arrangement. Without material abundance, no small thing, of course, what really connects us? America is certainly not a cohesive nation in any meaningful way, and why should it be? given its vast geography and enormous real diversity. This reality is not pinning for some fuzzy, long-lost constitutionalism should inform us as per Garrett's admonition. Compelling and viable path forward starts with identifying and colonizing around the many de facto smaller nations which already exist within the U.S. The COVID regime, for starters, has allowed federalism to reassert itself in many ways of us could have imagined 2 years ago. Even hapless Joe Biden recently admitted there is no federal solution to the virus, that COVID must be solved by the states. Governors now openly snipe at one another on social media and encourage competition among business and families to relocate. The moving company United Van's line happily provides us with its annual survey. They link to the survey. Those who can give up their economic and family situations are voting with their feet. Regionalism has a new energy not seen for many decades. Among those nations, two broad paths forward present themselves. One America intends to make 2020 another COVID year complete with business and school lockdowns, mask requirements, and vaccine passports. Another America wants to get back to normal as much as possible and deal with the virus as a permanent but manageable part of the landscape, kind of like the existing flu viruses. This fork in the road forms a flashpoint simply because the two paths are incompatible. But also they provide a real-time opportunities to apply different policies, often de facto, such as when businesses simply disregard COVID rules. In different states and localities, these opportunities in turn provide a blueprint for how intractable issues like abortion and gun control might be addressed more locally rather than by black-robed super legislators. Those two COVID trajectories are almost metapolitical at this point, but they demonstrate the inescapable circle: organize society around the state, or organize it around individuals, families, markets, and the institutions of civil society. We live in a political world or in an economic world. Mixing the two is not working. Politics won't go away, of course, but it will remain a lagging indicator. The left is hopelessly consumed by hatred and ingratitude mirrored in identity and animated by the desire to hurt and vanquish the deplorables, the Trump voters, anti-vaxxers, COVID deniers, you get the point, as an act of revenge. The right is lost in Trumpian dysfunction, moving further and further from any coherent message about economics or opportunity, while allowing neoconservatives to regroup and promote the bellicosity towards Russia, China, and Iran. Libertarians have lost the plot as well. Navel-gazing about what kind of circumstances would justify lockdowns and mandates, cheering the deplatforming and even sometimes debanking of alternate dissident voices by tech companies, accepting progressive framing of climate change and the like, all while failing to focus on the threats of the empire and central banking. Both sides are led by deeply unserious people who are congenitally unfit to organize a sandwich shop, much less lord over 330 million people. But if politics cannot be eliminated, it can be made more tolerable by an aggressive push towards subsidiarity. Americans already sense this, but COVID accelerated it. Given up on political universalism is a bitter pill for the political class, but one that must be swallowed. It's the pill Mises described a century ago in his radically decentralist calls for liberal nationalism and the right of self-determination as the hallmark of a decent society. Does this mean America must break up into new political entities, as the Austro-Hungarian Empire did? Not necessarily, but it does mean accepting a far greater degree of federalism and localism and a dramatically diminished national government. The way forward is apart. We will win is a ubiquitous hashtag on Twitter lately, code for the sense of change as so many Americans feel, but can't yet articulate. We will win because socialism is incompatible with human nature and a productive material economy. We will win because the Fed's crazed monetization of Treasury debt and its mechanical fetish for low interest rates are unsustainable. We will win because Uncle Stan will run out of valuable money. We will win because entitlements ultimately are unpayable, at least in real terms. We will win because war, empire, nation building have exhausted themselves, and Americans are all political stripes want out of the Middle East. We will win because woke will fail on its own internal contradictions and infighting. And we will win because the digital age is inexhaustibly decentralizing virtually every aspect of human life. And governments cannot escape this forever. So, we will win. But how long will it take, and what price? Victory. No one can know, but great things are happening, and we should take good cheer with us into 2022. This year, I have decided that I'm going to be optimistic about what the future holds. Now, we don't know what that's going to be. We don't know how it's going to happen or when it's going to happen or what it's going to look like. It could be that, it could be an unsavory type character like a Trump or someone like that could say, you know what? We're not doing this anymore. We're going back to what life was like pre-COVID 2019 America. We're not doing this anymore. It could mean that Ron DeSantis says, you know what? Screw all of you. Florida's doing its own thing. See you later. It could mean that Texas, if that guy would get out of his wheelchair and take a stand on anything, would say, you know what? Texas, we ain't doing this anymore. It could mean that slick-haired freak out there in California, Gavin Newsom, could say, you know what? We take COVID seriously, so we're leaving. It could be that weirdo who's now the governor of New York could say, you know what, we're still going to hold on to these policies of 2020 because they work and because we care about people. It could look different in many different ways. But the idea that we have to be ruled by handfuls of people, hundreds if not thousands of miles away, who don't know the complexities and the interworkings of your state is insane. So if that means that you have to go out and run for your local school board or dog catcher, so be it. I know that's something that Jacob and I have talked about personally quite a bit. Is that even in our own little slice of heaven down here in the middle of nowhere, Georgia, if that means that one of us has to sit on a council for something to say, you know what, we're not doing this anymore. Enough is enough. We're not doing the CRT in schools. We're not doing the mandates, vaccine, mask, whatever. We're not doing it. If we have to free ourselves by grabbing the reins of power ourselves, then so be it. The idea that you can just comply out of your way out of tyranny, no, that doesn't work. Ask the Jews of Germany and Austria and Poland. If you think that, somebody someday will come along and do it for us. Hasn't happened yet, has it? So that means that you have to get involved yourself, and that's something that we are looking at ourselves. We have done that already with becoming the affiliates for our county here in Georgia. I look forward to getting more involved, especially as Shane Hazel runs for governor. But it means you have to get involved and do stuff, because if there's one thing that the left can be praised for, it's their ability to organize and protest. The right, not so much. Now, I'm not saying protests are great or fun, but they do work. So that means we got to take it to the streets, people, right? Like that song, that Michael McDonald.
Take it to the streets.
Yeah. So I don't know. I refuse to be put in an altered state of mind over this whole COVID stuff or anything else. And you know what? I'm going to be optimistic. The politics in the state, it's one aspect of life. It is not life. And I think it's where so many people go wrong, is that their whole being, their whole essence of their reality is consumed in what goes on in the news. That's only one aspect of life. There are a whole host of other things you could give your time to. Some more things that are uplifting. So, yes, fight the fight. Take the fight to them. But also, don't be consumed by it, because it will destroy you.
Well, it's not always just keeping things political, but it's you can be for freedom and for liberty in non-political ways as well. It's all about relationship with people, and meeting people where they're at and accepting their ideas on all kinds of things as well. No, there's an article that I wrote back in December that alludes to a lot of the things that you said as well. And there was a positive thing I saw in the Mises Institute. There was an article, I think Phil Bishop wrote it, where Hans Hermann Hoppe's Democracy, the God That Failed, is actually outselling Karl Marx, which, wow. That if people out there reading Hoppe, depending on how you feel about him, there's a lot of libertarians that don't like him. But
well, it's mostly the loser brigade.
But here's the thing, though, is that even if they don't like him, and even if there are some left libertarians that don't like Hoppe, you would much rather have them reading Hoppe than Marx and Engels. So, and just like how I would rather have someone reading, Emma Goldman, even though I may disagree with her on economics, I'd rather have someone reading Emma Goldman than reading Marx, because she got a lot of things right, but that's a positive. And then seeing everything that's happened with Michael Malice's Anarchist Handbook, it's still selling incredibly well. There's a lot of positives to look forward to, and I think that we really need to focus on the positives. I know that we rail on a lot of the negatives here, just because a lot of the things that happen in the world are negative, but it doesn't mean they always have to be. I think one of the things that Malice has always talked about was that in the end, the future will be better. That doesn't mean that right now or in the next or in the near future it's going to be, but past that, you have to look beyond of what's currently going on. You have to look beyond yourself sometimes and beyond maybe your own life, and then look further, because I don't think that the current this is not sustainable. Something's gonna happen. I alluded to that. I said that something's going to happen. We are on a path that is unsustainable, and a lot of people have said this. It's nothing new. And I think that a lot of people will choose the right path after this, and it brings me a lot of optimism going forward.
I know it's a cliche, but it's like the future is what you make it, which is it's
Doc Brown.
It's
your future is what you make it, so make it a good one.
That's right,
Doc Brown.
Doc Brown, the fictional character. But anyway, so I am so looking. We've had plenty of time for some rest and relaxation over the last couple weeks with Christmas and New Year's, whatever. So I'm ready to storm the Capitol. Oh, I'm just kidding.
Have fun storming the castle.
Yeah, I'm ready. I am ready to storm the castle.
Yeah.
I am ready for the new year. A lot of good things are going to be happening this year. A lot of things to be positive about. A lot of things to be looking into. I know for whatever reason, I do this all the time, but I get fixated on one topic, and right now it's Vietnam. I don't know why. Maybe because I watched Apocalypse Now, and I was like, man, that was a really weird and interesting movie. Then I just went down the rabbit hole of watching basically every Vietnam movie there is known to man, and watching a whole host of documentaries and whatnot, and reading stuff. And I was like, you know what? Maybe we'll talk about it in the future. I don't know. But anyway, so I'm so looking forward to next year, what this show is going to be. Jacob shared with me a few weeks ago the numbers of who is listening, where they're listening from. It was very encouraging, because more people were listening to this than I thought there were, which means there's someone is out there. So when I say I'm talking to nobody, that's a lie, because I know that you are out there. And we are so thankful for each and every one of you who listen to the show. For those of you who subscribe to the website, who have joined the website, who support us on Patreon, thank you so much. It quite literally wouldn't be possible without you. For those of you who bought the merch, thank you. For those of you who send the kind words of affirmation and love to Jacob, but not to me, thank you. To the ones who just listen to the show and who maybe get a giggle out of it, or maybe who look into some of the stuff we talk about in greater detail, thank you.
Or who share the show with their friends.
Or share the show.
Yeah. Word of mouth is the best way to get us around. So
the whole point of why we do this is not only to be informative, but it's also to make you chuckle a little bit too. So
gotta do that.
So if I can make anyone laugh while talking about inflation, man, I'm a comedian. or if I can make people laugh while talking about, I don't know, the possibility of World War III with Russia over Ukraine.
Move over, George Carlin.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I try to do. If I can make you giggle a little bit, that's the whole point. If I can make you open up a new web browser to Mises Institute or to any different kind of the institute or whatever, that's all worth it as well. So
what you should be reading is libertyoverdrive.substack.com.
You should be reading
That's
LOL.
where you should be reading. It's not LOL. It's just LO. You should be reading LO. LOL is Liberty Overdrive Live. Right. But yes, I write exclusively at libertyoverdrive.substack.com. That is my Substack. You
say that like you have more than one offer.
Like I have more than what?
More than one offer.
No, I don't. There are no offers. But I do like writing there. That's where all my thoughts are. As you guys know, I am not on social media. Anything that you see me posting is just a share button. I don't go on there and like just scroll mindlessly. I hit the share button, I hit the Facebook, and that's it. There's nothing else that goes on. So if you want to know my thoughts and you want to know what I'm reading about and what happens in between these shows, only way to do that is on the Substack. That'll be in the description. School starting back next week, so as far as the frequency of the uploads on the Substack might be a little more sparse,
waning
than they were initially. So if you only see 1 or 2 things a week from me, I have not died. I'm not dead. I'm just writing papers for the scam we call college. But look, we're only a semester and a half away, so we're gonna look. If you're gonna get scammed, you might as well go all the way through with it. So that's the way I'm looking at it.
I see. As I got out early because I finished this past year.
Yeah.
So I got off that crazy train.
Yeah. Well, we are a semester and a half away from getting rid of the stupid thing. But after that, I'm gonna, we're gonna go hard. Once I finish school, life's gonna change, and we're gonna go after this differently.
We'll get crazy. We might go bowling.
We're going crazy, folks. I'm going crazy. We're going crazy. Guys, thank you much for listening. Joe, anything else?
That's it.
That's it. All right, guys. Have a great week. I'll see you guys on Friday, hopefully. And until then.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. Roger, Tranquility. We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot.